Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Pert.
Good morning, Earthlings. Good. How you doing today? Good. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Welcome to First Contact Radio. To talk about all these things we're talking about is because in life, everything is energy. Every single thing that's out there.
Yo, it's First Contact with Joshua Poet. He's the man on the mic, just in case you didn't know it. Covering news from all around the globe, from the weather and space to UFOs. He'll talk politics and make you open your eyes. Conspiracy theories and government lies. They'll dig it all up and try to find the proof. Cause it's time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We
It's
have
time
arrived.
to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We
It's
have
time
arrived.
to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio.
It's time to demand
First
the
Contact
truth.
Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio.
It's time to demand the truth.
That's it. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Today is the 14th of October. Sun sign in Libra, moon sign in Cancer. So we have air and we have water. Air and water. Water underneath. Water is the emotions, so the emotions are underneath. And then the outside, the words and the actions, the things we say and the things that we do. Libra, our sign relates to the astrology or the tarot card of justice, which is all about karmic balance, which is what we're working out during this phase of life. Aspects for today coming up. We have a opposition coming up later between Pluto and Cancer. This is later this afternoon, about 4:02 p.m. So we got on the one end of the teeter-totter, that deep transformative energy of Pluto, and on the other side we have the emotions and the feelings. So just think about how that works together. Sometimes when we go through transformation, sometimes those feelings come out and they're part of that transformation. So they're working together today. 9 o'clock, 9:20 p.m. Chiron, the wounded healer, and the moon are going to be in a nice, good, positive area and aspect. So those emotions start to play themselves out in our healing process and how we rise above situations that we're in, look at things a little bit differently. And then we have a lesson, a square with Uranus and the moon, so our emotions, and then something unexpected, some sort of unexpected change or event. That's at 10:07 p.m. is when that aspect, and that's a square or lesson. So our emotions are definitely going to have to deal with something unexpected. Could be happiness, could be sadness, whatever it is. It's emotions and unexpected events taking place. So we just need to really deal with our emotions, put our armor on to protect ourselves as best as we can. We'll take a good look at the Cancer energy momentarily. Numerology for today is the number 4. Here's how we've arrived at that number. 1 plus 0 plus 1 plus 4 plus 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 4 all adds up to 13. 1 plus 3 equals 4. That's our numerology today. Number 4 is the tarot card number of the Emperor. The Emperor is the one who puts things in order. Here's our number 4 right here. Our astrological sign for today, the sun sign, Libra, is right here. And our moon sign, Cancer, right here. We talked a lot about emotions today. So let's take a look here at what that Chariot, how that plays a part of all of this. Chariot's the one who puts on the armor to protect oneself from all of the emotions. Charioteer is the inner self, the sphinxes, the senses. The reins by which he drives them, which you see are invisible, represent the mind. The chariot itself is the body and is drawn by the sphinxes. Advancement in occult work depends upon the realization of the facts portrayed in this key, for it is only when we understand these facts that we allow the real self to guide our personalities. The charioteer is a victor. This key represents the conquest of illusion. The idea of enclosure, protection, etc. is suggested in a number of ways. The Hebrew letter chet means fence or palisade. The sign Cancer, attributed key 7, means crab, an enclosed crustacean. The chariot, the armor of the rider, the wall in the background, the battlements, and the towers are all symbols of the same idea. The starry canopy represents the celestial forces whose descent into matter is the cause of all manifestation. On the shield in front of the chariot is the Hindu lingam yoni, symbolizing the union of opposite forces. Above the shield, the winged globe. The globe is the sun. The wings represent the alchemical element of air, which carries the power of the solar rays. The wheels represent rotation or cyclic activity. The scepter, a combined crescent, and figure 8 symbolize the combined powers represented in tarot by the magician and the high priestess. Again, Hebrew letter Chet, significance or meaning offense. Water sign, astrological Cancer. Think of it this way. Chariot's driving the chariot. In front of the two sphinx, one black, one white, representing the opposites of life. Sphinxes represent riddles. So here you have the chariot driving this cart, this vehicle forward, but is being guided by the riddles of life that are the opposites of life, the dualities. So in order to be able to do that, the chariot needs to be able to be pulled in a direct path, but not opposite way. So therefore the charioteer allows spirit to flow through, so spirit can guide this chariot. The body, the armor, and the chariot are all vehicles for spirit. And as spirit flows through, we get that mental aspect going on. Remember the mental energy, the mental world. So we protect ourselves from all of the emotions. We allow spirit to flow through our vehicle. And in that sense, we can answer all the riddles of life. Current moon phase, 61% of the way full, making our way back down to the new moon. Up in the sky tonight, here's what we're going to see, the moon, and below it we'll see Orion. Orion's belt right here. Now that it's mid-October, Deneb has replaced Vega as the zenith star after nightfall. And accordingly, Capricornus has replaced Sagittarius as the most notable constellation in the low south. Right? Mayan Oracle. Today's the 11 spectral moon. The red spectral moon, so it's the moon guided by the moon. We're at this phase here. 11's the dissolving phase, so we've gone through the whole phase of the storm. We've gathered the energy, we've become enlightened by it, become nurtured and reborn, inspired, found the wealth of it, planted the seeds for what we wanted, utilizing our life force, looked at the lessons of life, death, understand how we can use this power to accomplish what we wish to accomplish, shine bright as the star, and now the phase of purification. Dissolve and purify. I dissolve in order to purify, releasing flow. I seal the process of universal water with the spectral tone of liberation. I am guided by my own power doubled. Solar wind 428.4 kilometers per second. Planetary K index between a 1 and a 3. Our corona hold down here, but nothing directly facing us. M-class possibility is down to 5. It dropped down from 10% where it was yesterday. X-class at 1. Geomagnetic storm activity 20%. In the mid-latitudes, upper latitudes as high as 30%. And on the Jewish calendar today is 20 Tishri. It is still part of the festival of Sukkot, or the Feast of Tabernacles. It says the festival of Sukkot, commemorating God's enveloping protection of the children of Israel during their 40-day journey through the desert, is celebrated for 7 days, beginning from the eve of Tishri 15. During this time, we are commanded to dwell in the Sukkas, a hut of temporary construction with a roof covering of raw, unfinished vegetable matter. Okay, and then we have down here the daily thought, the king alone. A parable of the Baal Shem Tov, of a king who on a day of joy proclaimed that anyone who would ask anything of him would be granted his request. Some requested power and honor, others wealth and riches. To each the king gave accordingly to his request, until there was one wise person who stated that his desire was nothing more than to speak with the king personally 3 times a day. The king was very pleased with this request, seeing that this person cherished the king's conversation more than wealth and honor. Therefore he granted this request, permitting this wise person's entry into the palace to speak with the king, and instructed that the treasures be opened to him, so that he might partake also of wealth and honor. And so David sang in his Psalms a prayer of a pauper, when he will pour out his dialogue before God, the dialogue itself that is his request. What is the wisdom of the pauper? It is that others choose greatness for themselves, while the pauper chooses to stand as a nothingness before the greatness of the king. By doing so, he chose the king himself, along with all of the king's greatness. All right, very good. And that is the news to get us started today. UFO news is up next.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk. Thank you very much. First story takes us above Amsterdam. Here we have a contrail and some sort of object flying into the contrail. This week, a UFO was caught examining the contrail over Amsterdam. The UFO enters the trail and stops there for a few moments before moving on. As most have heard, aliens are interested in everything that flies, especially the things that cause pollution. This is one such case. Again, they're probably just examining, wondering what the heck are we doing to ourselves down here. Alright. Good shot. 1 minute 50-second video. There's our object right there flying down. Thinking, oh, silly humans, what are they doing? Spraying themselves like bugs. Alright, let's move on from there. Back up to the surface of Mars. Here's an object. What does it look like to you? Looks like a statue, right? Looks like a statue to me. The head, arms, chest, neck, shoulders. NASA photo source is right here. Comes to us from JPL. Says this strikingly similarity between a human being and the being carved in this statue is the latest Curiosity rover downloads. Rami Balian, founder of the exclusive Mars Images group, hit another home run with this anomaly. I caught it immediately when I saw it come up in my Facebook feed. Make sure you get this one and put it on your archives. Then please comment below and share with your friends as well. Check out the groups below. Thank you, Rami Balian and Thomas Mickey Schroeder Jensen for all the great finds. Okay, the video here itself is 10 minutes long. Here's an image right there. Very interesting. Certainly stands out, you know. And if we recall the other day, the story that there may have been life on Mars and there may still be. So, nothing that surprises us. Okay. Check out the video, 10 minutes, 48 seconds. You can see all the ways in which this is being examined. Here's a compilation of sightings. Report UFO sighting 174 from the latest UFO-sightings.net. 11th of October, East LA. Cluster of orbs, which I summoned and captured in front of a house in East LA. Kamloops, BC, Canada. Strange triangle in the sky. First it appeared 2 lights coming fast and slowed down and just disappeared like magician disappearing. Vanished. Did not beam away to lights. Okay. Pinocchio's, Pennsylvania, October 9th, 11 p.m. Looking at stars outside. One started moving, zigzags forward and back in circles. Then it would go straight really fast and stop on a dime. In UK, Wallsend, while watching the red moon, I spotted a dull light moving from the south towards the west. I followed it, watching all of a sudden it disappeared. Ireland. What's the deal with the flashing lights in the southeast over Ireland? The last two lights lighting up the whole sky, very odd. Tarzan on the 5th, driving west of Ventura Boulevard, and a large boomerang spacecraft gave bright green in color and blue yellowish lights. Alright, and then we got another one here in Shropshire, England. While photographing the aeroplane, I noticed an anomaly in one of the frames while reviewing the pictures later on my PC. Did not see this one, but there it is. And last, Nat'l, Victoria, Australia, driving from Horsham back to Nat'l, where I live with my 3-year-old daughter. London, it's a straight road, 100 miles per hour in the car. I was just looking up skyward and I saw this bright colored orb. It looked to me like it had a rainbow around it. It was enough to pull over, and I got to take 15 pics with my phone. The first pic uploaded is an original. The other 4 were sent to Damien John Knott, a professional UFO photographer that is now world renowned for his work he's doing. Alright, so there you go. Compilation of sightings. Moving from there, we have the campers in the Black Hills National Forest. 3 South Dakota campers in Black Hills National Forest reported encountering a glowing UFO that moved towards them at ground level, according to testimony in case 36560 from the MUFON database. The 3 friends drove in from Twin Cities, arriving in Rapid City, South Dakota on the morning of Friday, June 20th, stopping at a camping store for supplies. Armed with a national park map, they decided to explore a remote location that required driving an hour and a half to the campground. We geared up, began a hike to the nearby mountain. The hike was very strenuous. It was not a designated trail and involved a lot of climbing over fallen trees. After a couple of hours, we reached the summit and found an area with a clearing in the trees and suitable place to set up a base camp. We built a fire ring out of stone, started a fire, ate dinner as it began to get dark. That time of year, the sun doesn't set until late. It probably get completely dark until about 10 p.m. But when it does, the stars really come out. There was zero light pollution and not a cloud in the sky. We sat, admired the stars as we listened to music and talked about our plans to hike to the top of the mountain peak tomorrow. As I looked towards the horizon, I noticed a very unusually large star giving off a lot of light. It was just above the horizon and visible through the trees. It appeared to be hovering in place, but it clearly was moving. I figured it had to be a plane. But I watched it as best as I could to the forest. I noticed it was clearly changing its path and trajectory. It was ascending and descending, shooting left, stopping, hovering, zooming left, and up again. I pointed this out to my 2 buddies. I shined the flashlight on it and said, "There's no way it could be a plane." We were all observing the object now. It was obviously under some kind of intelligent control, but it wasn't making a sound. As we did that, the UFO started to descend. It was now below the tree line and began to come closer. I'm shining my light on it when the fear set in that this was not something we could explain. So then they turned off their lights. They said the object itself was giving a lot of lights. It was so bright that it was illuminating the grass below it, causing the trees between the location and ours to cast shadows. It was now maybe only 10 to 15 feet above the ground and heading in the direction of our tent. Where we set up the fire was only about 100 feet from the tent. The object was now only a rock's throw away. We all held our breath. We were silent, frozen in fear, and we are alone in the woods, and this glowing object has no explanation. It reached a point directly above our tent and stopped. There is a direct line of sight between our position and the object. It seemed to turn and directly observe us. I began to move out of its view, but without ever taking my eyes off of it. There seemed to be an energy in the air. This was the most powerful experience of my life. Just as mysteriously as it arrived, it disappeared right in front of us. We were all pretty shocked. Wow, so bizarre. Is it gone? Is it coming back? Are we okay? These are the questions going through our minds. Alright. And then as it goes through, looking here for the end, doesn't show any more. It says, as we sat there talking, we witnessed 2 more UFOs moving across the sky. Alright, very interesting. Here's a story about a military space plane that we have. Secret plane, secretive X-37B military space plane could land in California today. Look at that. Looks like the space shuttle. The U.S. Air Force Mystery X-37B spaceplane will return to Earth this week, possibly as early as Tuesday, after 22 months in orbit on a secret mission. The robotic X-37B spaceplane, also known as the Orbital Test Vehicle, will land at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California, where Air Force officials are gearing up for its return. As October 12th, the X-37B mini shuttle has been in orbit since September 2012 and racked up a record shattering 671 days in space. Team Vandenberg stands ready to implement safe landing operations for the X-37B orbital test vehicle, the third time for this unique space mission, said Colonel Ken Bates, 30th Space Wing Commander, in a statement on Friday. The X-37B landing could occur on Tuesday, October 14th. According to several press reports, including Reuters, the spacecraft is designed to fly itself autonomously during landings. Alright, so there's more for you to read. Check it out. And last one, Wales, North Wales to be exact. Bright lights in the sky across Llandudno, an explosion in Rhuddlan, and a large black object over Rhyl were among the sightings reported to the Ministry of Defense. A report of bright lights dancing in the sky on the way to Llandudno was amongst 31 UFO sightings in North Wales in the last decade. One person emphatically said that they spotted an unusual sighting in Wrexham in October 2008 and left it to that. Someone else said they saw a large black object over Rhyl in February 2004. The police officer in Rhuddlan said they saw a big explosion with an intense white light in September 2000. Someone in Taiwan in April 2009, they said they saw a big bright orange light that proceeded to turn white and then disappeared very quickly without making a sound. In August this year, members of the Aetherius Society climbed more than 3,000 feet up Carned Llewellyn, Snowdonia to access the spiritual energy said to have been charged in the mountain by a cosmic being from another planet. The most famous UFO sightings in North Wales, the mystery of the Berwyn Mountains UFO crash in '74, when people reported hearing a huge bang, felt earth tremors, and saw a brilliant light in the sky. In 1999, UFO sightings reported to the Ministry of Defense between 2000 and November 2009, when the MOD stopped counting. 9 specific people specifically mentioned aliens or something alien about their UFO sightings. Someone in Bristol reported that a big alien craft landed on their house in 2008 and then apparently flew off towards the city. In April 2005, someone in Basildon said they saw a spaceship with gray aliens sitting on top of it above a bungalow. And that is our UFO news for today. I will be right back.
Come into our circle, Great Spirit. Fill our souls with peace.
Continue on. Book of Enoch. Here we are, Book of Enoch. We've gone through a lot of it so far. We're all the way down into, we're getting to the end. We're here at this, in the dream vision. And one of the 4 went to that white bull and instructed him in a secret without being terrified that he was born a bull and became a man, and built for himself a great vessel and dwelt thereon. And 3 bulls dwelt with him in that vessel, and they were covered in. And again I raised mine eyes towards heaven, and saw a lofty roof with 7 water torrents thereon. And these torrents flowed with much water into an enclosure. And I saw again, and behold, fountains were opened on the surface of the great enclosure, and that water began to swell and rise upon the surface. And I saw that enclosure till all of its surface was covered with water, and the water, the darkness in the midst increased upon it. And as I looked at the height of the water, that water had risen above the height of that enclosure, and was streaming over that enclosure. And as it stood upon the earth, and all the cattle of that enclosure were gathered together, until I saw that they sank and were swallowed up and perished in the water. But the vessel floated on the water, and all of the oxen and the elephants and the camels and the asses sank to the bottom with all of the animals, so I could no longer see them. And they were not able to escape, but perished and sank into the depths. And again I saw in the vision, till those water torrents were removed from the high roof, and the chasms of the earth were leveled up, and the abysses opened. Then the water began to run down into these, till the earth became visible. But that vessel settled on the earth, and the darkness retired, and light appeared. But the white bull, which had become a man, came out of the vessel, and the 3 bulls with him. And one of those were white like that of the bull, and one of them were red as blood, one as black, and the white bull departed from them. And they began to bring forth beasts of the field and the birds, so that there arose different generations: lions, tigers, wolves, dogs, hyenas, wild boars, foxes, squirrels, swines, falcons, vultures, kites, eagles, and ravens. And among them was born a white bull. And they began to bite one another. But that white bull which was born among them begat a wild ass, and a white bull with it. And the wild asses multiplied. But that bull which was born from the begat a black wild boar and a white sheep. And the former begat many boars, but the sheep begat 12 sheep. And then the 12 sheep had grown. They gave up one of these to the asses, and the asses gave up that sheep to the wolves, and the sheep grew up among the wolves. And the Lord brought the 11 sheep to live with it, to pasture with it among the wolves, and they multiplied and became many flocks of sheep. And the wolves began to fear them, and they oppressed them until they destroyed these little ones, and they cast their young into a river and much of the water. But the sheep began to cry aloud on account of the little ones, and to complain unto the Lord. And the sheep which had been saved from the wolves fled and escaped to the wild asses. And I saw the sheep, how they lamented and cried, and I besought their Lord with all their might, till the Lord of the sheep descended at the voice of the sheep from the lofty abode, and came to them and pastured them. And he called that sheep which had escaped the wolves, and spake with it concerning the wolves, that it should admonish them not to touch the sheep. And the sheep went to the wolves according to the word of the Lord. And another sheep met with it, and went with it. And the 2 went, and they entered together into the assembly of those wolves, and spake with them, and admonished them not to touch the sheep from hereforth. And thereupon I saw the wolves, and how they oppressed the sheep exceedingly with all their power. And the sheep cried aloud. And the Lord came to the sheep, and they began to smite those wolves, and the wolves began to make lamentation. But the sheep became quiet, and forthwith ceased to cry out. And I saw the sheep till they departed from among the wolves. But the eyes of the wolves were blinded, and those wolves departed in pursuit of the sheep with all their power. And the Lord of the sheep went with them as their leader, and all his sheep followed him, and his face was dazzling and glorious and terrible to behold. But the wolves began to pursue those sheep till they reached a sea of water. And the sea was divided, and the water stood on this side and on that before their face. And the Lord led them, and placed himself between them and the wolves. And as those wolves did not yet see the sheep, they proceeded into the midst of the sea, and the wolves followed the sheep. And the wolves ran after them into the sea. And when they saw the Lord of the sheep, they turned to flee before his face. But that sea gathered itself together, and became as it had been created, and the water swelled and rose till it covered those wolves. And I saw the wolves were pursued those sheep, till all the wolves who pursued the sheep perished. They were drowned. But the sheep escaped from the waters, and went forth into the wilderness, where there was no water and no grass. And they began to open their eyes, and to see, and the Lord of the sheep pasturing them, and giving them water and grass, and the sheep going and leading them. And the sheep ascended to the summit of the lofty rock, and the Lord of the sheep sent it to them. And after that I saw the Lord of the sheep, who stood before them, and his appearance was great and terrible and majestic. And all those sheep saw him, and were afraid before his face. And they all feared and trembled because of him. And they cried to that sheep with them, which was amongst them, we are not able to stand before our Lord and to behold him. And that sheep which led him again descended to the summit of the rock. But the sheep began to be blinded and to wander away from that which they had showed him. But the sheep wot not thereof. And the Lord of the sheep was wrathful exceedingly against them, and that sheep discovered it, and went down from the summit of the rock, and came to the sheep, and found the greatest part of them blinded and fallen away. And when they saw it, they feared and trembled at its presence, and desired to return to their folds. And that sheep took the other sheep with it, and came to those sheep which had fallen away, and began to slay them. And the sheep feared its presence, and thus the sheep brought back those sheep that had fallen away, and they returned to their folds. And I saw in this vision till the sheep became a man, and built the house at the Lord of the sheep, and placed all the sheep in that house. And I saw till the sheep which had met that sheep which led them to fall asleep. And I saw till all the sheep perished, and the little ones arose in their place. And they came in a pasture, and approached a stream of water. Then that sheep, their leader, which had become a man, withdrew from them, and fell asleep. And all the sheep sought it, and cried over it with a great crying. And I saw it till they left off crying for that sheep, and crossed a stream thereof water. And there arose 2 sheep as leaders in place of those which had led them, and fallen asleep. And I saw till the sheep came to a goodly place in a pleasant and glorious land. And I saw till those sheep were satisfied in that house amongst them in a pleasant land. And sometimes in their eyes were open, and sometimes blinded, till the sheep arose and led them, and brought them all back, and their eyes were opened. And the dogs and the foxes and the wild boars began to devour these little sheep, till the Lord of the sheep raised up a ram from their midst, which led them. And the ram began to butt on either side of these dogs, foxes, wild boars, till he had destroyed them. And the sheep, whose eyes were open, saw that the ram, which was amongst the sheep, till it forsook its glory, and began to butt those sheep, and trampled them, and behaved itself unseemingly. And the Lord of the sheep sent a lamb to another lamb, and raised it to being a ram, and the leader of the sheep instead of that ram, which had forsaken its glory. And it went to it, and spake to it alone, and raised it to being a ram, and made it the prince of the leader of the sheep. But during all these things the dogs oppressed the sheep. And the first ram pursued the second ram, and the second ram arose and fled before it. And I saw until those dogs pulled down the first ram. And that second ram arose and led the sheep. And the sheep grew and multiplied. But all the dogs and the foxes and the wild boars feared and fled before it. And that ram butted and killed the wild beasts. And those wild beasts had no longer any power among the sheep, and robbed them no more of aught. But the ram begat many sheep, and fell asleep. And a little sheep became a ram in its head, and became prince and leader of those sheep. And the house became great and broad, and it was built for those sheep. And a tower lofty and great was built on the house for the Lord of the sheep. And the house was low, but the tower was elevated and lofty. And the Lord of the sheep stood on the tower, and offered a full table before him. And again I saw those sheep, that they again erred, and went many ways, and forsook that their house. And the Lord of the sheep called some from amongst the sheep, and sent them to the sheep. But the sheep began to slay them. And one of them was saved, and was not slain, and it sped away, and cried aloud over the sheep. And they sought to slay it, but the Lord of the sheep saved it from the sheep, and brought it up to me, and caused it to dwell there. And many other sheep he sent to those sheep, to testify unto them, and lament over them. And after that I saw that when they forsook the house of the Lord and his tower, they fell away entirely, and their eyes were blinded. And I saw the Lord of the sheep, how he wrought much slaughter amongst them in their herds, until those sheep invited that slaughter, and betrayed his place. And he gave them over unto the hands of the lions and the tigers and the wolves and the hyenas, and into the hands of the foxes and all the wild beasts. And those wild beasts began to tear in pieces those sheep. And I saw that he forsook the house of their tower, and gave them unto the hands of the lions, to tear and devour them, into the hand of all the wild beasts. And I began to cry aloud with all my power, and appeal to the Lord of the sheep, and to represent to him in regard to the sheep, that they were devoured by all the wild beasts. But he remained unmoved, though he saw it and rejoiced that they were devoured and swallowed, robbed, and he left them to be devoured in the hand of all the beasts. And he called 70 shepherds, and cast those sheep to them, that they might pasture them. And he spake to the shepherds and their companions, Let each individual of you pasture the sheep henceforward, and everything that I shall command you, that do ye. And I will deliver them over unto you duly numbered, and tell you which of them are to be destroyed, and them destroy ye. And he gave over to them those sheep. And he called another, and spake unto him, Observe and mark everything that the shepherd will do to these sheep, for they will destroy more of them than I have commanded them. And every excess of the destruction will be wrought through the shepherds. Record namely how many you destroy according to my command, and how many to their own caprice. Record every individual shepherd all the destruction he effects, and read out before me by number how many they destroy, and how many they deliver over for destruction, that I may have as a testimony against them, and know every deed of the shepherds, that I may comprehend and see what they do, whether or not they abide by my command, which I have commanded them. But they shall know it not, and thou shalt not declare it to them, nor admonish them, but only record against each individual all destruction which the shepherds effect, each in his time, and lay it all before me. And I saw till those shepherds pastured in their season, and they began to slay and destroy more than they were bidden. And they delivered those sheep unto the hand of the lions. And the lions and the tigers eat and devoured the greater part of those sheep, and the wild boars eat along with them. And they burnt the tower and demolished that house. And I became exceedingly sorrowful over that tower, because the house of the sheep was demolished. And afterwards I was unable to see if those sheep entered that house. And the shepherd and their associates delivered over the sheep to all the wild beasts to devour them, and each one of them received in his time a definite number. It was written by the other in the book of how many each one had destroyed of them. And each one slew and destroyed many more than was described. And I began to weep and lament on account of those sheep. And thus in the vision I saw the one who wrote, how he wrote down every one that was destroyed by those shepherds day by day, and carried up and laid down, and showed actually the whole book of the Lord of the sheep, everything that they had done, all that each one of them had made away with, and all that they had been given over the destruction. And the book was read before the Lord of the sheep, and he took the book from his hand, and read it, and sealed it, and laid it down. And forthwith I saw how the shepherds pastured for 12 hours, and behold, 3 of those sheep turned back, and came and entered, and began to build up all that had fallen down of the house. And the wild boars tried to hinder him, but they were not able. And they began again to build as before, and they reared up that tower, and it was named the High Tower. And they began again to build the table before the tower, but all the bread on it was polluted and not pure. And as touching all of this, the eyes of the sheep were blinded, so that they saw not, and the shepherds likewise. And they delivered them in large number to the shepherds for destruction, and they trampled the sheep with their feet, and devoured them. And the Lord of the sheep remained unmoved, till all the sheep were dispersed over the field, and mingled with them. And they did not save them out of the hand of the beast. And this one who wrote the book carried it up, and showed it, and read it before the Lord of the sheep, and implored him on their account, and besought him on their account. And he showed him all of the doings of the shepherds, and gave testimony before him against all the shepherds. And he took the actual book, and laid it down beside him, and departed. And I saw till in this manner 35 shepherds undertook the pasturing of the sheep, and they severely completed the periods, as did the first, and the others received them into their hands to pasture them for the period, each shepherd in his own period. And after that I saw in my vision all kinds of birds of heaven coming, the eagles, the vultures, the kites, the ravens. The eagles led all the birds, and they began to devour those sheep, and to pick out their eyes, and to devour their flesh. And the sheep cried out, and became, because their flesh was being devoured by the birds. And as for me, I looked and lamented in my sleep over that shepherd who had pastured the sheep. And I saw until those sheep were devoured by the dogs, and the eagles, and the kites, and left nothing, neither flesh, nor skin, nor sinew remaining on them, till only their bones stood there. And their bones too fell to the earth, and the sheep became few. And I saw until that 23 had undertaken the pasturings, and completed in their several periods 58 times. But behold, Lambs were born by these white sheep, and they began to open their eyes and to see, and to cry to the sheep. Yea, they cried to them, but they did not hearken to what they said to them, but were exceedingly deaf, and their eyes were very exceedingly blinded. And I saw in the vision how the ravens flew upon those lambs, and took one of the lambs, and dashed the sheep in pieces, and devoured them. And I saw till horns grew upon these lambs, and the ravens cast down their horns. And I saw till they sprouted a great horn out of one of these sheep, and their eyes were opened, and it looked at them, and their eyes opened, and it cried to the sheep, and the rams saw it, and they all ran to it. All notwithstanding, all those eagles and vultures and ravens and kites still kept tearing the sheep, and swooping down upon them, and devouring them, till the sheep remained silent. But the rams lamented and cried out, and those ravens fought and battled with it, and sought to lay low its horn, but they had no power over it. And I saw till the shepherds and the eagles and the vultures and kites came, and they cried to the ravens that they should break the horn of that ram, and they battled and fought with it, and they battled with them, and it cried that its help might come. And I saw till a great sword was given to the sheep, and the sheep proceeded against the beasts of the field, and slay them, and all the beasts and the birds of the field fled before the face. And I saw that man who wrote down the names of the shepherds, and carried up the presence of the Lord of the sheep, came and helped it, and showed it everything that had come down for the help of the ram. And I saw till the Lord of the sheep came unto them in wrath, and all who saw him fled, and they all fell from before his face. And I saw the throne was erected in the pleasant land, and the Lord of the sheep sat there himself on. And the other took the sealed books, and opened the books, and before the Lord of the sheep. And the Lord called those men, the 7 first white ones, and commanded that they should bring before him, beginning with the first star, which led the way, all the stars whose privy members were like those of horses, and they brought them all before. And he said, that man who wrote before him, being one of those 7 white ones, and said unto him, take those 70 shepherds to whom I delivered the sheep, and whom, taking over their own authority, slew more than I commanded them. And behold, that they were all bound. I saw that they all stood before him, and judgment was first held over the stars, and they were judged and found guilty, and went off to the place of condemnation, where they were cast into the abyss, full of fire and flaming, and full of pillars of fire. And those 70 shepherds were judged and found guilty, and they were cast into fiery abyss. And I saw that at that time how a like abyss was opened in the midst of the earth, full of fire. And they brought those blinded sheep, and they were all judged and found guilty, and cast into this fiery abyss, and they burned. Now this abyss was right above the house, and I saw those sheep burning, and their bones burning. And I stood up till they folded up the house, and carried it off, in all the pillars, and the beams and the ornaments of the house were the same, till folded up with it. And they carried it off, and laid it in a place in the south of the land. And I saw till the Lord of the sheep brought a new house, greater and loftier than the first, and set it up in a place which the first had been folded up. All of its pillars were new, and its ornaments were new, and larger than those of the first, the ones which had taken away, and all the sheep were within it. And I saw the sheep which had been left, and all of the beasts of the field, and all the birds of the heavens, falling down, and doing homage to those sheep, and making petition to, and obeying them in everything. And therefore those 3 who were clothed in white, and had seized up my hand, who had taken me up before, and the hand of the ram also seizing hold of me, took me up, and set me down in the midst of those sheep before the judgment took place. And those sheep were all white, and their wool was abundant and clean. And all that had been destroyed and dispersed, and all of the beasts of the field, and all the birds of the heaven, assembled in that house. And the Lord of the sheep rejoiced with great joy, because they were all good, and returned into his house. And I saw till they laid down that sword which had been given to the sheep, and they brought it back to the house, and it was sealed before the presence of the Lord. And all the sheep were invited into that house, but it held them not. And the eyes of them were all opened, and they saw the good. And there was not one among them that did not see. And I saw that the house was large and broad and very full. And I saw that a white bull was born with large horns, and all the beasts of the fields and all the birds of the air feared him, and made petition him all the time. And I saw till all their generations were transformed, and they all became white bulls. And the first among them became a lamb, and that lamb became a great animal, and great black horns on its head. and the Lord of the sheep rejoiced over it, and all of the oxen. And I slept in the midst, and I awoke, and saw everything. This is the vision which I saw while I slept. And I woke, and blessed the Lord of righteousness, and gave him glory. And then I leapt with a great weeping, and my tears stayed not till they could no longer endure it. And then I saw they flowed on account of what I had seen. For everything shall come to be fulfilled, and all the deeds of men in their orders were shown to me. On that night I remembered the first dream. Because of it I wept, and was troubled, because I had seen that vision. All right, that was quite interesting, powerful vision there. Let's go back over to... So we just finished this section here, all about the dream vision. So when we return next week, we're going to jump into the concluding section of the book. The last piece is there, but very interesting. I know sheep was used as the analogy there, but it certainly sounded like it was telling the story of the Exodus, didn't it? Kind of like what it sounded like. All right, and that brings us to an article here at In5D. This one's called How to Transcend the Concept of Duality. It's from Nadine Grant. When we buy into dualistic modes of thinking, negative, positive, good, bad, evil, loving, we pin ourselves to 3D consciousness, which prevents us from seeing with our higher mind over a situation, person, or feeling. We cannot transcend the concept of duality where we are existing in a state of non-awareness. Lack of awareness exists only in those who fail to recognize inner shadows projected outwards. We live in a world where hate is conjured up by those who have the means to scope and profit from it, and yet as a collective we have become complacent in trying to understand the world around us, often forgetting to ask ourselves what the dark aspects are for. Many have had encounters with their own dark elements and realize that not only is this what we call the darkness necessary, it is vital to our soul paths and deepening of the self. The harshest lessons serve to shape our inner being, the foundation, the very nucleus that we make up our essence into the polished diamonds, light beings if we allow ourselves to master ourselves in such a way. So how can we as a collective begin to transcend the concept of duality in our world? Well, change always starts at home. In order to change the world around us, we have to start with ourselves. It is essential that we each take responsibility for our own tribulations and stop projecting shades of egotistical tendencies onto others. Blame, judgment, anger, gossiping about each other, guilt, manipulation, whatever it is that we do to feed the darker elements within our ego need to be addressed from within. As our perceptions unfold, duality begins to lose its grip over us, and we can again start to see the events that have made up the pathway of our life in a different light. When looking back from a higher level of consciousness over the events that have sculpted our road through life, the emotional lessons, the lessons in love, scenarios we once labeled as negative or traumatic can now be looked upon as objectively without emotional attachment and ego clouding our perspectives. It can be a world-changing event, the moment we receive an aha revelation. Our perspectives and our convictions about others often crumble around us in these moments. One of the first steps to transcending duality is to be extremely honest with yourself about where you are holding judgments about others, and thus indirectly yourself. Who do you judge as wrong or bad or dark? Who do you try to control and impose your will on? Where in your life do you manipulate another being in order to win? Being more aware of our thoughts on a moment-to-moment basis is an essential phase of inner work if we do want to retain our clarity of mind. In a split second, our energies can dip down into 3D density, thinking where we can find ourselves resonating with the shallower base thoughts and actions. When we are resonating in the frequency of love, judgments cannot exist. Nobody is beneath our kindness. The process of self-pouring significantly deepens our understanding of duality. When we question ourselves and receive guidance, we understand ourselves on a deeper stratum. Understanding ourselves inevitably leads to the natural progression of understanding others and the world around us. Messages often come hurling out of the ether into impending days or weeks. This is known as checking in with the higher self or contemplation meditation by many psychics and healers. Consequently, the first step fine-tunes our perception of self and strengthens our inner voice and intuition. By questioning our own motives and behaviors, we are in effect inviting the energies of transformation and change, as well as giving the nod of accomplishment acknowledgement to our helpers in the spiritual realm, we're all too aware of our development and where we are in terms of our life plans. We are now receptive to truths concerning our development and where we have yet to achieve growth. A dedicated diary or notebook is also the key in this event. Even if we sometimes get lazy, a lot of messages come through that we receive and not only make sense later down the line. Usually those aha moments come while we are in the very act of reading over old entries in our journal. The hard part is most often asking the right question so we know that the answer pertains when it is given to us. If we don't ask a question to frame the answer, it can be difficult to know what the message is. Awareness, again, plays a huge part in our perception of the answers. If we are glued to the TV as an example and something occurs which is a response to our ponderings, we can miss the transmission altogether. Right, and gets into meditation here. The second and crucial aspect of greater enlightenment within is meditation. Meditation will help clear out unnecessary and low vibrational thought cycles which make us more receptive to our guides in the spiritual realms. This is the perfect state to receive guidance and clarity from our higher self. There is also a few widely used methods to receiving answers in meditation, which is to set your intention in advance. Let your guides or your higher self, whomever or whatever it is that you are most comfortable addressing, let them know your intent for the meditation and what you want to achieve. Think about your questions beforehand. Once you're in a meditative state and relax mentally out loud, begin to ask your questions and allow your mind to let go of the need to formulate an answer for yourself. Allow your breathing to become the focus of your attention, and this will center you. Okay, and here's some good examples. What's the root of my anger? Show me what I need to see, feel, hear, or know about myself now. What are my limiting beliefs and the others that I'm holding? How are these beliefs related to my current situation? Why am I unable to control my emotion when I spend time with so-and-so? Show me any energies that are residing in my spirit. The answer received can be unexpected, shocking even, and will come through in a variety of ways. Some get the messages in technicolor visuals, others through words and sounds and through smells and cognizance. Most people, however, use a combination of a few or all of the intuitive senses to receive their information. Upon following this method of self-deliberation for a while, it soon becomes second nature. As we rise in thought vibration, we renovate years and years of hardwired, 3D-coded neural pathways. When this probing of self has become a habitual instinct, you will know you are on the stage where you are existing primarily through the higher self and not through the ego mind. The crux of the matter, when we take the resonant energies into account, we cannot play the victim in the scenario in life. There is a way to use the law of attraction to assist us rather than to hinder us, and a big part of this is recognizing our thoughts and projections when we come face to face with them. We manifest what we need to evolve into our existence. What we choose to do with this, rise or think, is firmly within our own hands. This being said, however, it can sometimes be difficult to recognize a mirror lesson. They fundamentally involve someone or something that triggers us in such a way that it travels deep to the extreme aspects of our character. This type of clouded mentality completely eradicates our objectivity. People project their own weaknesses of character towards others, whilst not acknowledging the same or similarly resonating behavior in themselves. The primary benefit of transcending duality is that you no longer relate to finger pointing, judgment, or labeling of any kind. You now understand that each soul has their lessons, their level of consciousness, and their own pathway to growth. This results in a dissolution of frustration with others or outside events. Life is less stressful. You stop trying to control everything, and everything you do not like, and you even have more of an understanding of the healing properties of the shadow realms. You are more adept at dealing with emotionally fraught situations that once would have had you snarling with anger. When you can respond to a person or event in an objective, unbiased, unemotional manner, you know that you have reached a pivotal point in your development as self. The challenge will be in the upkeep of the new vibration. All right, and here, say, from Princess Mononoke. It was a movie, film. What exactly are you here for? To see with eyes unclouded by hate. All right, and this is again written by Nat'l Grant. And that brings us to our channeled message for today. Today it's from Mira, from the Pleiadian High Council.
A message from Mira, from the Pleiadian High Council.
Through Valerie Donner, October 9, 2014.
Mira.
Greetings, I am Mira. I am pleased to be with you today. I understand that some of you would like more definitive information from us. First, I would like to tell you everything about what is going on with our work with the Earth Council and all of the comings and goings on and around your planet. We are well aware of your desire for information as well as the need for support during these times of chaos and uncertainty. There is only so much that I can reveal because changes are happening constantly and the situation is complex. We work at the request of the Creator. We all have our jobs to do and so do you. We can only reveal what we are allowed to at the time. Please be patient as the divine plan unfolds. Take a look at your Earth's governments. Do you think for a minute that you are being given all of the information that you need to go about your daily lives? Of course not, they only tell you what they want you to know and most of it is false. There is the intention of instilling control and fear amongst the populace. This is not our intention. We are charged with making contact and spreading our love. We want you to know that we welcome the opportunity to become a part of your daily lives, to live and learn from each other in the oneness of life. This is our future. We have been around throughout eons of time. We are here on the planet along with other beings from other planets, galaxies, and universes. Some of you may notice us or feel our energies to be different. We have to fit in like you do, for many of our ground crew have felt they have had due to this all of their lives. You know that we monitor all conditions on the planet. We focus our energies where they are most needed. We are extremely busy right now and have called in additional help. We are employed where there are wars and fighting. We would end all conflict on the planet if this would be allowed. We cannot do this since humanity created this discordance. It must learn its lessons to make the necessary changes. If necessary and things become so unstable that they are a threat to the survival of the Earth, drastic measures will be taken. We have put various perpetrators on notice. We work with various beings all around the planet. We know what is going on and we are aware of their devious plans. On the more positive side, we celebrate with you every success, new wisdom, and healing that occurs on all levels. Each one gains a star and reward when peace, love, and higher consciousness occur. When upliftment happens and people come to realize they are one and that they need to work together cooperatively, we celebrate. You are making good progress. Right now it might appear that you are stuck in the mud, but this is not so. You are just preparing to be spring-loaded into a higher way of living on beloved Mother Earth. I am Mira, sending you love from the Earth Council and the Pleiadian High Council. Remember, we are masters of the ascension process on numerous planets in creation. We are with you.
Alright, good message. Again, confirming what we know is going on. That brings us to our meditation. So, close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And exhale. Take another deep breath. Exhale again. And breathe again, and as you do, contemplate the words of today's affirmation. My positivity propels me forward in my life's journey. There is no room for negativity along the way. I leave all of that behind me. So imagine yourself as you're breathing in all of the positivity and dropping off all of the negativity. Imagine yourself as you breathe in this positivity. Imagine yourself moving forward. And you realize that this positivity moves you forward while the negativity anchors you. So you imagine yourself being filled with more and more positive energy. And the more that you fill yourself with the positive energy, the more that it overflows, because your being can only hold so much before it overflows. And as it overflows and it spills, it spreads to others who they also are inspired by this positive energy, and they let themselves be filled up by it as well. And one by one, we all become inspired when we see others filled with positive energy. And we realize there is no need to accentuate the negative energy. So we let it go. And as we let it go, we see a whole world. A world of individuals that are all evolving. A world of darkness that is left behind. And negativity that is left behind. And we see the wars dissipate. And those who are telling the lies lose their power. And those who are causing problems, corruption, destruction, they all fade into nothingness. To all that is left is only positivity. So let's just imagine this world of positivity as we go on our journey today. Imagine sending positivity into the world as you yourself are filled to overflowing with this positive energy. So let's just imagine moving through the world filled with positivity and allowing others just to experience that energy as it flows through you. So let ourselves, our subconscious mind, continue on that journey, humbly sending out all the positivity that comes through us. And let's bring our conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale, and open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That is the show for today. Thank you very much for being here. I'll be back tomorrow. Continue just being good to each other out there. That's the best thing we can do, right? Positivity. I love you. Keep loving each other. I'll be back tomorrow. Peace. I'm out of here.